How's it going, guys? So today we're going to be making a really cool sci-fi kind of plasma ball hard surface scene. It's actually pretty simple. We're going to have some fun with some circular arrays, but before we get into that, let me shout out today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by Radical. It's an incredible software. What it does is it takes footage of you or any subject that you're filming, moving around, whatever. It can sense all that, convert it to a rig, take that motion capture and apply it to a rigged character that you have. So you can use any consumer grade camera to make this, including just footage you found on YouTube of just a person, and you just film it, you run it through the Radical software, it does its calculations, it can see the arms, the legs, the head, the body, all that stuff. Really incredible software. And then it could take that, turn it into an FBX rig, and then you could take that, put it into Blender, add it to your character, and your character is dancing around doing whatever you were doing in your footage or whatever footage you decided to use. And very soon they're going to release an add-on that helps you automate the retarget to your character, because it's a bit of a process if you've never done rigging, but this add-on is really going to help you out. And in under a month, they're going to be releasing Radical Studio, which is going to be an on-prem solution and give you unlimited visualization time. So if this is something you're interested in, hit the link in the top of the description, go check them out, get the software. It's super cool. Now let's get into the tutorial. All right, so I'm gonna be using Blender 2.9 for this, but everything I'm doing in here is gonna work perfectly in 2.8 if you don't feel like trying out the beta. If you would like to, I'll leave a link in the description to grab the beta. It's available right now. It's pretty cool. It's got some great viewport denoising stuff, which I'll be utilizing here, but you don't need that to run the tutorial. Now, heads up for Eevee users, you can follow this tutorial along very easily in Eevee. All you won't be able to do is make the glass ball, but you can make the plasma ball and everything else here. We're all gonna be doing simple shading, all that fun stuff. So before I get into the full design, I want to give you guys the concept of making a circular array. If you don't know what an array is, we'll just go with here with a sphere, and then you go here to the array modifier, and you can make a bunch of these guys. Also, the gonna look a little bit different in 2.8, the modifier, but still does the same stuff. So you can take this, bring over the relative offset, and bring over this factor. That's an array. Very simple, used quite heavily. But how do you make a circle? There's not a spot in the array to make a circular array. So it's a little bit of a weird thing, and I would love for Blender to make a button that helps you make circular arrays and kind of automates that, but right now that's not a thing. So first off, we're going to use a controller object to make the circle, and that's going to be done with an empty. So we're going to go here, empty plane axis. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to hit tab, we're going to go to edit mode, and then we're just going to bring this over, making this little orange dot, the anchor point, stay in the world origin. That's what we want to do. Now that we're here, we can open up the array modifier. You're going to want to find something. You're going to unclick relative offset, click object offset, and then click empty. So now this empty is going to be controlling the offset. So if I do this, bring that Z rotation on the empty there, it does its thing, and then I can just bring up that count, and now we have a nice, really cool circular array. And then you can take the empty still to control all the stuff that's happening, and that's how you make a circular array. The reason why I took time in the beginning of the video to do this, because that's going to be a big thing we're going to do, and I won't have to keep repeating and explaining it. So this is the concept. All you have to do is hit tab, move that. So if you want to, move it back in. So all you have to do is hit tab, bring it out to wherever you want, making sure that this world origin, the origin point is right here in the middle, allowing the empty to be able to move it. So that's how you do that. Really simple, really fun, and super powerful. So I'm gonna make a new scene, and let's go ahead and start designing this guy. So first off, we're gonna hit Shift A and go here to the circles. We're gonna go to this add circle thing down here and give it 85 on the vertices, and on the fill type, give it Ingon. Okay, so now we have this fun stuff going. I'm gonna hit S5 to give it a nice scale, hit tab, and we're gonna go over here to the inset faces, and we'll do something, hold on. Something like this, bring in that thickness somewhere around this range, and then hit X faces. All right, so what's super cool about this is if we go here and we click Alt, you can get this whole thing, and you can just move that in and out. So very simple there. We're gonna go ahead and get a solidify here and give that a pretty good thickness, and we're gonna add in a bevel. Very cool stuff. And then you can go here to the limit mode, angle on the limit mode right here. And then you can just bring that offset. Make sure your limit mode is on angle, giving you way more flexibility on the way this bevels. So we're just going to give it something right around this range. And then what I'm going to do is quickly get in my icosphere. I'm going to hit tab, and we're going to subdivide this guy, bring up the smoothness, bring up the cuts, shade smooth. So now we have this. I want to actually go back to this one and bring it in to be right about there. Control A, apply scale. And we'll bring that offset back here and then bring down the thickness. So now we have this. I actually kind of want to make it a little bit closer to here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to bring it up a little bit and then bring this part back, just giving this a section here. And then we're going to do it one more time. I'm going to bring this up and then I'm going to bring this back. And that's how we got those 3 circles right there to do their thing. And then I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to hold Alt and click on the outside rim and just bring it, wrong one. Click the outside rim, hit S to bring it way back so it's not in the way of our camera. So now we have this fun stuff going on. Now we're going to need to start piling in some detail here to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit H on this to hide it just to get it out of the way. I'm going to get a cylinder here. And then I'm going to give it 85 vertices. I like that number. It's a good medium to keep it nice and round, but not super high poly. So I'm going to take this guy, bring it over here for now, but we're going to bring it back to the middle when we're done here. I'm going to hit RY90 just to point it where I want it to go. And then I'm going to go to the face select, and I'm going to go here to inset faces, do this, and I'm going to hit E to extrude it in. It's right about there. I'm going to hit I to inset it again, and then extrude it out, something like this. Inset, extrude it out, and then one more. So inset, and then extrude it out quite a bit longer. And then on this one here, I'm just going to extrude it out. On this one here, I'm just going to move it out. So this is our first little asset. I'm going to give it a bevel really quick. Change the limit mode to angle, and then we're going to give it 8 segments, bring that offset back into something like this, shade smooth. So what I want to do here is right here on the location X, put it back at 0, making it back here to the world origin. I'm going to scale him down. All right, so now that our little tube here is in the middle, I scaled it down. I'm going to hit Control A and apply all transformations here. Now I'm going to hit Tab, hitting A just to make sure all the faces are selected. I'm only going to do this once, and then on the other circular arrays, I'm just going to speed through it very quickly. So I'm going to bring it all the way here in edit mode, and I'm going to go ahead and add my array. So now he's there. I'm going to go ahead and get my plane axis empty. There's going to be quite a few near the end, so I'm going to name it Tube C for Tube Controller. I apologize if you can hear any of the construction going on outside. They're redoing the pavement, and I really need to get this video done. So unfortunately, apartment sounds. So we're going to go back to the array, uncheck relative, click object offset, click Tube C, and then we're just going to take this tube here and bring it to the right or the left, and then we're going to take this here and bring that count all the way up. So let me explain the sort of thought process of what I'm doing right now. What I'm doing is just down here, I want to add a lot of detail. That's the goal, adding detail. So first off, let me scale this. First off, I'm going to scale this down, something like this. So yeah, right now the goal is to get detail on detail. The reason for that is you want to make this portion down here, at least for my design, make it look pretty busy, because that's what's really going to draw the eye to this section, is making it look nice and busy. So this is some of the detail I'm adding right now. I don't like the spacing. It's a bit too much. So I'm going to bring that count down, something like this, and then we'll bring the tube and bring it this direction so I can get some space, because we're going to add another asset right here. So let's go ahead and make another really cool hard surface thing. We're going to get in a cube. We're going to bring it all the way over here, hit the period key. I'm going to hit Tab, hitting Control and bringing that up to the bottom there, and then I'm going to scale it down, scale it forward. I'm going to hit Tab here. First off, apply scale. I'm going to add 2 loop cuts here. So one here, one here. We're going to go back over here and make this guy come down a little bit, just like this. And then we're going to go ahead and start subdividing this. So I'm going to actually just add some more loop cuts. So right here, right here, right here. And then I can start actually insetting some stuff on these guys, just to, again, to add a good amount of detail to this. Apply scale, add a bevel, and then you know, bring that offset to something like this. Give it a couple segments, and then we're going to go back here on the X, give it 0. All right, so now we have some really fun amounts of detail here. I'm going to go ahead and bring this guy forward like this, so he's not intersecting with the side that much. Okay, now we have this fun stuff going on here. What I'm going to do now is add one more thing, so I'm just going to get in another cylinder, and then I'm going to make it really skinny. So let's do something like this, make it really thin. All right, cool. And then we'll just bring that depth in just a little bit here. All right, so now we have this, we'll bring that circle back in, and now what we have is a really cool amount of detail, which is super important to bring your eye pointing to this area of the scene. So what I'm going to do is quickly set up my camera here. Shift A, get my camera. I'm going to Control Alt 0, snap it to view. And what I'm going to do is use the, instead of, I'm going to go to the camera settings here, the green, making sure your camera is selected. I'm going to go perspective to orthographic. I'm going to hit G to kind of move it around the way I want. I'm going to hit R to give it a really cool, this is something you see quite a bit in sci-fi, is having this kind of orthographic angle view here. I'm going to go more to the top here. Snap it to view, maybe bring it a little bit farther this direction. Again, Control 8, or can't speak. Control Alt 0, snapping it to view, and then now we have a really cool thing going on. Now let's go ahead and make a really cool plasma ball. So let's go here to shading. I'm gonna hit the period key. We're gonna click new, and then I'm just going to go to the scene world, scene lights. We're gonna be using some emission, so I'm gonna delete this principled. Again, we're in the shading tab, clicking. I'm going to get the mix shader here because we're going to be adding two nodes here. We're going to add an emission node right here and a transparent. So let's get this transparent BSDF, plugging these two in right here. And then I'm going to just bring this guy up. I'm going to get in a color ramp so we can crunch the stuff going behind it. So we're going to have some fun with a Voronoi. So Shift A, add a Voronoi, just right here. If you have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled, hit Control T, it comes with Blender by default. Get the object and get the distance here. And we're going to change this right here on F1 to distance to edge, and that's going to get that classic crackle. So we have this going on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the color ramp so that we can get the right thing to be crunching through. So just like this. So now we have these guys. I want to make them all electrify looking and all that stuff. So we're going to be doing some editing on the vector line right here. We're going to get the noise. We're going to get a noise texture to add that electrical look. Now it's just too much. We're going to bring the detail up to 12. So we have this. Now we have the electrical look, but it's too much. So let's get in a mix RGB. And what this is going to allow us to do is if you get this object coordinate on color 2, it allows you, if you bring the factor to here, it's like only this. And then if you bring this factor here, you only get this. What it's doing is it's mixing these two together. So we're going to get something right around here. Now, here's a really cool trick if you want to animate this plasma ball. Go from 3D to 4D, and you can animate the W and it won't change the scale. And now you get this really cool animation of a plasma ball. Let's go ahead and get that transparency enacted. So we're going to go here to the shader box here. All right, we're going to go to the shader box here. We're going to go to settings. If you are in the Eevee render engine, you need to change it there if you're not. And then we can go here from blend mode to alpha blend. And what that's going to do is now we have that transparency enabled. In Cycles, it does it by default. In Blender, you do have to kind of enable it. So I'm going to go back here to Cycles. I'm going to go ahead and change it to a nice blue. I'm going to go here in the emission, change it to a nice blue. We'll go here to Cycles to see how that's acting, and we'll give it, I think, a strength of around 50. So that's really going to brighten up this area. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to duplicate this guy, scale it up just by a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and delete this material, click New. We're going to give it a little bit of roughness, bring up the transmission, and now we have a really cool glass material. And I'm going to turn off the AI denoising for now. I'm not a big fan of it. And then now we can use this glass and create this really cool effect here, bringing the roughness down a little bit. And so it gives it this really cool plasma ball effect. Right now it's just too noisy, too muddy. We're gonna go ahead and start fixing that here. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna hit the tilde key, go to the top. Let's go ahead and start adding those rings. So that's gonna be with a curve, a circle curve. If you go to the wireframe, you can see it right there, the orange. We're gonna go here and bring the resolution and the render all the way up to 64. And then I'm gonna go back here to solid view and bring him out to be kind of right about here. And then let's go to the geometry, get the depth up. So right now he's too thick for my liking. I'm gonna hit apply scale, and I'm gonna bring the depth down kind of like right around there. I'm gonna go to the rendered view, and then I'm going to add an emission material right here, emission, give it a strength of 50, and we're gonna give it a nice blue, just like the plasma ball. I feel like the plasma ball isn't blue enough. Let's go back to shading and make it very blue, something like this, maybe closer on the teal side. I'm gonna copy the hex and paste it on the bezier circle we just made. So now we have this craziness going on. We'll fix that later. It's much too blue for my liking, but we're only dealing with 2 shaders here. So let's go ahead, go to the top. I'm gonna hide the camera. Let's go ahead and duplicate this guy some more. I'm gonna scale him up here to be right there. I'm gonna bring him up to be right about there. Let's see how that's looking. We wanna start just getting these rings to start lighting our area to get a better look and a better point of view to bring your eye to the subject that we want to bring your eye to. So we're gonna bring this, say right up here. Go to the top here and just bring him to the edge. So that's cool, I like that. Bring it to the rim. Let's see how that's looking. That's it. All right, so now we have another ring happening here. It's starting to look really, really cool. A bit too much again. Let's go ahead and start adding some metallic materials. So click on this stuff, make it metallic, make this guy the same metallic material we just made, making all of these the same metallic material. So now that all of these are sharing the same material, we're gonna go back to shading and quickly make some nice roughness for the light to interact with the shading. So let's go ahead and we're gonna get in a Musgrave, M-U-S, Musgrave, hitting Control T with that node wrangler. Get here, we're gonna take this guy and we're gonna get a color ramp. We're gonna get a color ramp here and we're gonna plug the color ramp into the roughness. We're gonna plug this Musgrave into the color ramp. Now the roughness is doing some weird stuff. We're gonna bring dimension down to 0, detail all the way up, and then we're gonna bring this black portion and bring it closer to something right here. And so now when we check out the lighting and how it's interacting with stuff, it's much nicer and much more even, which is what we're looking for. You can see how you can see the ground. That's just an issue with my solidify. So we'll just bring that thickness all the way down like this. And now we have that fun stuff. So now we have a simple procedural material playing with our lighting here, just having some fun. Let's go ahead and make one more asset to go in a circular pattern around here. All right, so now I made just a little bit more detail to go here on the back. I mean on the this flat portion, because I just didn't like how flat it was. Again, we're gonna add that metallic material we made for everything. We're gonna check out the lighting. How's it looking? It's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of it. I'm gonna start placing a few more of these Bezier circles here around just to bring your eye to the spot that I want it to go, which is of course this big plasma ball. So I'm gonna bring it right in, and I want it to intersect with these tubes here. Let's check out how that looks. Starting to look really, really cool. I think I like the amount of circles here. I'm gonna add one more, duplicate it, and then I'm gonna bring it, I want it to intersect with these guys. So I'm gonna bring it up, making sure that it is interacting with them in the spot that I want. So right about here is where I want it to be. And then I'll bring it in just a tad bit. And that is the final portion of this spot that I want to do. What I am going to do is take this guy here and bring it in, because I kind of I want to get these two guys because I want to scale these guys up a little bit. They're not big enough in my opinion. All right, so I just wanted this circle to be a little bit bigger because it's not really pronounced enough. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a point light here, right here, and bring it just to the surface of this. I'm gonna, again, copy this color, Control C, copy the color of this point light, change the point light color right there, Control V. I'm gonna bring the strength to 1000. And then we're gonna see how that looks in terms of lighting the scene. Now the scene is much better lit. My only problem is this color, it's way too blue. One thing I want you to notice is how washed out it looks. Just the detail's not showing because everything's too bright. I don't wanna bring down the brightness. What I'm gonna do is get this metallic material, take the base color, bring it down, and you can see how much of a world of a difference that made. It just improved it by a milestone, and that's what we want. So now we can see this is already looking like an incredible render. I'm a big fan of it. What I'm gonna do is bring my camera out just a little bit, something like this, and we're pretty much done. You can bring that bezier, you can bring that point light up a little bit if you want to just spread out the lighting a little bit, just like this. But for the most part, this render is finished. It is gonna take a little bit to render. It is kind of a low light scene. You're gonna wanna use some denoising. So go here to this little, looks like a bunch of cards, turn on your denoising data, go here to compositing, click use nodes. I'm gonna hit Shift A and get a viewer. Get a viewer here, plug that there. We're gonna get the denoise right here, plug that there. We're gonna use noisy image, noisy normal, noisy albedo. And then in the last thing we're gonna do is plug the image to the last composite. I'm gonna give myself here on the composite, on the render, I'm gonna give it 400 samples. It's quite a bit, but you're gonna wanna use that. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna render this and show you one more thing to add some glow to your render. All right, so the render's done. We're back here in compositing. I'm just gonna add some glow. So GL, which is the glare node, we're gonna pop that right there. What that's gonna do is add all this craziness. We're gonna go from streaks to fog glow. And of course, it's still gonna be a little bit too much, so we're gonna bring our mix down just to minimize the strength of that effect. So something like this. And so now if you hit M to mute it, you can see how much better it looks with some subtle glow. And now we're done. What you need to do is plug this image here into the composite to give it to the final render. We'll go here to rendering, and now you're finished. You'll just go to image, save as, and you're done. So that's how you make this really cool sci-fi plasma ball effect. You can animate it if you want to spend the time and render this. It's quite a bit of a heavy render, but I think it'd be worth it to render it. I'm gonna be sending it to a render farm because I just don't have the time. But this is how you do it. Really fun thing. Hope you learned something, and thanks for watching.